Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known in this realm as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me for another installment, y'all, of Hail to Stephen King. This is now a bi-weekly show, as in going down twice every single week here in 2018. We had so much cool success, humbling experience, seeing just the growth of the program, the interest within it, and after 2017 was the biggest year for Sai King ever. That's right. Yeah, we wanted to double down, double tap. And so every terrible, terrific, Terror Tuesday, I don't know, we're trying to think of some fun names for those. And every scarific Saturday. So every Tuesday and every Saturday is when you can catch a new installment of this program. It will either be the first episode of the day or the second episode of the day, because we always do a morning episode and an evening episode here on The Horror Show. So if you guys haven't subscribed, done all that jazz, please do. Greatly appreciate it. So this is an idea that I had after doing a video last year, which was essentially the sequel novel that I wanted Sai King to write the most, okay? And so I went through a few different choices. Some of them were like right on the nose and obvious ones, and I decided, how about doing a kind of companion video, which was going to be all about the prequel novel that he needs to write. Yes, I know, some of these choices are going to overlap, and as I was talking with some friends about this idea, they were just like, well, you don't want to have the same choices and whatnot, man, you can't do that. But yeah, that's unfortunately, some of these are going to be, some of these are rich enough stories where you could go both forward and backward with them. So first and foremost, you got to mention it. And it is one where people have said that, they should do more sequels, they should do whatever. In fact, that was the point of conversation when I did this sequel video last year. That they want to see, the evil reemerge and all this other stuff. I still kind of feel like it was wrapped up in a nice little package afterwards, and I kind of want that story to be done and doesn't necessarily need to be sequelized, at least with Pennywise. I think that evil presence is donezo. And there's obviously still going to be lingering weirdness and evil in Derry, which we found out in Insomnia. It's still like a magnet for those type of forces, but no, I mean, you can do spin-off stories for it that are set in Derry, and they've done many, obviously, but I don't necessarily think we need like an It sequel, because that time, that story, that, time with those characters and everything, that was wrapped up. A prequel novel, though, about all of the evil that the Pennywise entity was inflicting on that area, I think that there is so much richness there, there's so much richness there, y'all, that, yeah, you could do so much with it, because how many different stories to other times in the 27 years, back and back and back did we see, with everything from, the mobster shootout to the crazy stuff with, the lumberjacks. And so they kind of went back a little bit, but I want to see them go way back. How far are we going back? Way back. And it goes a little something like this. I think they should go like centuries and centuries and centuries back. Like we're talking 1400s. I mean, the time of the Native Americans, like, first, building their own civilizations there. Maybe have, Pennywise coming and wreaking havoc on a band of native kids or something, and how they tried to, band together and, try to take on this evil entity and, presumably fail or whatever. I think that reaching so much further back and getting real period specific, it would obviously entail a shiz load of research on Sai King's part, but he loves doing those type of books, those big super fatties, the ones that could be like a paperweight on your desk or something like that. I would love to see a It prequel. I don't know what he would call it, but he'd probably call it Pennywise or something like real on the nose. I don't know, because it was such a perfectly simple yet sinister title. So that is my #1 choice, and these are in no particular order, just to let you know. But next and most prolific one that I have to mention is The Shining. Yeah, The Shining already had a sequel, which was fantastic. It was called Dr. Sleep. Josh Boone is apparently, not Josh Boone, Mike Flanagan, after so wonderfully doing Gerald's Game, wants to adapt this into a film currently. It would entail some revision stuff, because, Kubrick changed the ending so drastically of what happens at the Overlook compared to what really happens in the book, where, spoilers, some people get pissed at me about those, it gets blown up, it's destroyed. And in Dr. Sleep, it's like this weird, like, campgrounds of sorts where old people in motorhomes like the True Knot go to. So I would like to see a prequel though, because I feel like all of the evil that they mention took place at the Overlook. There is a lingering evil presence there as well, you know? And so it's kind of like the rich history that, that Torrance discovers when he's going through all those old newspaper clippings and things of that nature. I, honest to God, do believe that there's enough that they could explore here that it just really, I mean, the richness, once again, very similar to the issue with it, is the fact that there is enough unspecified backstory that I really think, I mean, hell, do a story all about that previous caretaker and how he went nuts and hacked up his family. Do just that as a whole, maybe not even a novel, do a novella. Do like a short story specifically chronicling that. I think that that would be tremendous, very cool, very awesome, and I am all about a Shining prequel. Even though The Shining is not one of my absolute favorite Sai King books, it's in my top 20, obviously, or maybe even top 15, but as I've said on this program quite a few times, it's not one of my absolute favorites, but the rich just backstory of the Overlook, I feel like has a lot to be expanded upon, and I think even at one point they were trying to do this as a movie, and they were just going to call it The Overlook or something like that, but, you know, I think that King needs to do it himself, and that is where I will stand on that topic. So here we get to the next one that is a little bit of a, it's not so much a little bit trickier, but this is one that is going to overlap with my previous video about the sequel, because once again, this is a tale that I think you could fascinatingly go forward or backwards with, and that is Leland Gone, that's right, from Needful Things. I would love to see a sequel to Needful Things or a prequel to Needful Things. And a prequel to Needful Things would be cool because you presume that Leland has been doing this time after time after time, this lecherous presence that he is, going from town to town, setting up shop, collecting harvesting his souls or whatever, and then just completing the process again, anew, over and over and over. And I think it's a very underrated book. It was heralded as the last Castle Rock book. Makes me wonder if we're going to see him pop up in the Castle Rock series. Probably not. I'm assuming that it's going to be, I really don't know. I'm fascinated at what that Castle Rock TV series that we're going to get on Hulu this year is going to be all about. If there's going to be, I mean, we know there's going to be, you know, that familiar sheriff who was in Needful Things, and so he was also in a few others, I believe. He was the replacement for the sheriff that got killed by Cujo. I'm trying to remember his name, Pangborn? I could be wrong, but in any event, Needful Things, I think, could go backwards and you could see Leland in a different small town just starting the process, and I think that would be fascinating and very cool. In some ways, yeah, I would like to see maybe the first time that he did that, and maybe a little bit more about his backstory and stuff. I think a prequel to Needful Things would be super rad status, and bring it on, Sai King. I want to see it, I want to read it, I want to enjoy it and savor it. Next choice is going to be a very self-serving one, because of the fact that we've had prequels to this story before, but god damn it, I want more prequel, early, Roland Death Chain stuff. I want more Dark Tower prequels. Yeah, I do. He needs to write more. He even implied that there is still possibly one more Dark Tower story in him, and he even confirmed it when he was doing the Sleeping Beauties book tour, not on my stay that I got to go check out, unfortunately, but I believe he was like up in Toronto, perhaps? I know he was in the Great White North, but somebody, when he was doing the fan questions asked, they were like, hey, is there possibly, because he's 70 years old now, is he possibly going to write one more story about the pursuit of the tower, or at least involving those characters? And he confirmed, he's like, yeah, I think there's possibly one more. So we don't know if that would be Jericho Hill finally, totally, you know, explained, not in the comic books by other people and by notes and whatnot. I would personally like to see, sorry guys, I've heard enough about Jericho Hill. I've seen, you know, what he outlined with Robin Firth that became the comic books. I want to see another totally original adventure, another prequel, another just bit with young Roland. So yes, I know that's kind of a cop-out maybe, since if we've already seen prequels to this particular story, you know, I love The Wind Through the Keyhole, so good. I guess that was like more of an in-between story, but, you know, because it was technically in between both the stuff that took place with the quartet in 4, and it also took place, you know, in between, you know, after all of his stuff in Hamburg and whatnot. So yeah, I want another Dark Tower prequel. I want it so bad, and it's driving me mad. Next one is gonna be it's almost like a consolation, because I was so fascinated by this character, and this is like, Cecil hates my honorable mentions, but this would be an honorable mention because it's a novella. It's not technically a novel, but it's from Full Dark, No Stars. 2 of those have already been adapted into films. Big Driver, and with Maria Bello, if I remember correctly, and that's where she gets kidnapped and is presumably going to be killed and all this horrible stuff from this guy, and she escapes, and then she returns to kind of extract revenge and stuff. Very, very interesting, interesting story. And then there's also A Good Marriage, which was adapted into a film as well, about this woman who discovers a dark secret about her husband. Very good. Honestly, all 4 of the tales in this. And 1922, how can I forget 1922? Masterfully done with Thomas Jane on Netflix just this past year. Mike Patton from Mr. Bungle and Tomahawk and Faith No More. He did the score. It was great, man. So the only story in this to not be adapted, it's the shortest in this. It's called A Fair Extension. And there is a man by the name of George L. Ridd, if I'm not mistaken. And if you switch around the last name right there, L. Ridd, or Elvid, that's right, Elvid, because yeah, Elvid, E-L-V-I-D, swap that around, yeah, it's the devil. And so this guy named Streeter, I believe, Steeder or Streeter, it's been a little while since I've read this book, or this particular novella, but he encounters this guy on the side of the road near the airport, and he's on his way home to Derry, because, you know, King is shared universe stuff. And so Streeter encounters this George Elvid character, and he's like, if I remember, he's selling like trinkets and different things like that, which is, you know, something that people do around the airports and inside the airports, you know, trying to, you know, gain some extra money, some extra business. But this guy claims to have been centuries old, and he kind of negotiates a bargain with Streeter, who has terminal lung cancer at the time. He's like, I will give you 15 more years of life, and all that you have to do is give me 15% of your earnings every year for the next 15 years, and I will cure your affliction and give you at least 15 more years of life on this earth. He implies there might even be more. Who knows if there would be a renegotiation at that point or whatever. But the thing that I gotta say is that even though his encounter with this George Elvid character, I need to make sure I'm not saying Elrid, it's Elvid, George Elvid. Even though his encounter with him is brief, it's fascinating for the sheer fact that he's gonna get this affliction cured and get these more years of life, but the problem is he has to pass his current affliction on to somebody else, and it's of a person of his choosing. And he chooses, spoilers, I'm going to go to at least a little bit into this, he chooses his best friend since, like, I can't remember if it was high school, I think it was high school, yeah, because he's basically, it's this guy that he's helped out and kept in touch with for decades and decades now, who he's done so much for and has kind of screwed him over at the end of the day. So he decides to pass his affliction on to this best friend of his that he secretly has hated for the longest time. Guy stole his girlfriend in college and married her and all this stuff. So the guy's all squeaky clean, but yeah, he's had the easy road forever. And Streeter has been, you know, just putting himself out for this guy for the longest time. You have to read the novella to find out how it all goes down, you know, how everything concludes with, you know, the passing of this thing on, and, you know, do the characters get justice, or things flip-flop back, whatever. You'll have to read Fair Extension to see. But the point of all of this being, I want more about George Elvid, man. I want more about this weird little, you know, bargainer for, you know, things of this nature that's on the side of the road that says that he has been around for centuries. I recommend everybody check out A Fair Extension, but I would like to see a prequel with a little bit more history about this character, even if it's a prequel novella or even a short story. You know, once again, I think that would be dope. Very, very cool. So my last choice is, it's another very obvious one, but it's another one where I feel like the history is so rich. They already did a sequel movie, which is pretty craptastic, but I think that there is enough backstory and mythology, so to speak, in the town of Ludlow where we could do a prequel to Pet Sematary. And I think it would be amazing. Seriously, you remember how, you know, the guy who in the film who played that, boy, he was like the, wasn't Eddie Munster, right? I forget, Herman Munster. Yeah, the guy who played Herman Munster, he was the guy who was like, and they parodied it so delightfully on South Park. I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. But when he was telling that story about one of the first kids he saw that was an older kid, and I can't remember if he died in like the war or something or what it was, but he gets buried and he was like older, he was like a teenager or whatever, and you know, he came back not quite right and all that stuff, and sometimes does blah. I think that there is, can you imagine how many people the like little like speakeasy aspect of those Micmac burial grounds has been told to, and where it's just like, oh yeah, you better believe there were so many other people who went and buried loved ones or animals or whatever weird thing up in there, you know, and just the disastrous, horrific results. Maybe even give, you know, take the Native American approach, like I said with Stephen King's It, where maybe when the Micmacs first realized that that was spoiled ground, and some of the first experiences that they encountered with burying stuff there and realizing, holy hell, we can't bury stuff here because it's going to come back all evil and try to kill us and be crazy. I mean, an origin story of those burial grounds and the Micmacs discovering them, there you go. I think I maybe even want that more than what I was implying at first with yeah, the whole, you know, just people, you know, whiteys, you know, people in Maine when they were first discovering it or whatever. I think that that would be super cool. So there you have it, guys. I know this is maybe a little bit of a shorter video, but you know, it's with 2 times a week now. It's gonna be. It's ambitious. I had one of the kind commenting viewers say, don't want to burn yourself out, man, if you're going 2 times a week. We still want these to be good. And a friend I was talking with this about, you know, she was telling me, she's like, well, you want to make sure they're all quality too. And sometimes, you know, it's quality, not quantity, man. And, you know, it's like you want these videos to be really good. And sometimes if it's less frequent, it means a little bit more. That's an apprehension that I have about this program now after that talk going 2 times a week. But hey, we're going to at least soldier on for the time being. I have tons of great ideas. And once again, I want ideas and suggestions from y'all, the viewers, the awesome support that once again is so humbling and honoring to receive about this program. I'm passionate about Side King, as you can tell. And I know that if you guys are watching this, you're also, you guys and gals, you're also passionate about it as well. Or maybe you're just discovering King and you're just discovering this massive intertwining shared universe. Hey, Marvel fans, you love your shared universes and all that stuff. This dude was the originator in the modern age of the shared universe within his books, and so many different things intertwining, and does just very interesting and insightful aspects that they entail. So I'm going to give a grande gracias, danke, arigato, merci, thanks peeps. It's always fun having you come and join me here. I have been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and lots of fun stuff to discover there. Come on, send me a comment or a question or whatever it may be. Also do that here on the video, and like, share, subscribe to The Horror Show, as I said before, if you have not already. So until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more here on The Horror Show, I have been Jaime and Fuego. You constant readers have been awesome as always, and until next time, remember, stay scared and read Stephen King, especially those books I mentioned if you haven't already.